Good afternoon. Welcome, my name is Peter Lesser. I'm the Executive Director here at the Empire State Plaza Performing Arts Center. That, Of course, we all know and love it, and Greg knew and loved it as the Egg, and certainly this event could have been at any performing arts center or cultural center at all throughout the capital region that Greg warmed his seat here countless nights, as well as many other venues as well. So, but we're happy that you're here today for this event. And Greg, like I said, was a regular presence here as a concert reviewer. And actually my own experience, Greg was really the first media person that I encountered when I was the new kid on the block back in the early 90s when I came to the area. And my first assignment from my new board of directors was to get an interview with a relatively unknown upcoming jazz saxophonist. And they said, well, call Greg Haymes at the Times Union and see if he'll interview him. And I certainly had never heard of this saxophone player, and most of the people in the capital region had not. And I don't know if Greg had either, but I called him, here it was, my chance to succeed, and first thing he said, sure, yeah, just give me his number, I'll interview him. I was like, all right. And from then on, again, Greg was just around reviewing, previewing things, and we certainly miss him more than we can say, and really realize, first, with the shock of all of this, and then realize how addicted I was, and so many other people I've talked to the Nippertown site. And yeah. And how often that we're going through that every day, because it was always there first. If something got announced, whether it was your thing or something down the block, and it did take a while for that to wear off. Although the icon is still on the desktop, of course. So we will miss that, and really just realize too that whenever we would come across a new performance that we were considering or booking, always one of the first thoughts were, well, what would Greg think of this? And if you sent out that press release, and if it got a favorable mention, you did all right. And I realized it's going to take a while to get used to not having that thought. And then I realized, I can still think that. What would Greg think? And then I'll know I'll keep booking, high quality artists here. And getting the nod from approval from wherever. So anyway, we do miss him. We're really happy you're here today and to join in this event. And now I'd like to introduce to you someone who needs no introduction, I'm sure, to all of you. But that's Greg's wife, Sara Ayers, who's going to come and take the time.
Thank you all for coming. I know Greg would be gratified by the outpouring of love here today. Greg Haymes was a poet, an actor, a musician, an artist, and a writer. Others today will talk about his music and his friendship and mentoring and his journalism. But I'd like to give you a short overview of some of the art he created. Art he made with no real expectations or goals. Art he created because that's what artists do. One of his earliest big projects was Sky Mail, a mail art project in which he mailed self-addressed postcards to a wide variety of people, asking them to describe the sky, and then mail the cards back to him. Could you start the slideshow, please, now? So we have Sam Peckinpah. Conductor Seiji Ozawa. Painter Roy Lichtenstein, being a little literal there. And everybody's favorite, novelist Jerzy Kaczynski, not a fan. When we moved from the city and found ourselves surrounded by trees in our new home, he had the idea of taking children's hobby horses, painting them white, and hanging them from wires high in the woods. And when the wind blew, it seemed like they were galloping around the trees. Every winter they'd fall and get battered and broken, and he'd repair them and restring them and get on a ladder again and put them back on the wires so they could fly. At one point, he was up to 44 of them. He was enamored with rust of any kind, any rusted metal, as well as dried weeds. And he built a number of assemblages from these found materials. This is called the Rhythm of the Saints, and you can see some rusted metal and some wood. This one is called Window, with that big piece of rust, and a protractor, and a metal ring, and a broken angel statue. Now, digital photograms, these were made by laying the materials directly on a digital scanner. And again, we see a lot of rust and dried weeds here. This one's called the Shoals of Memory, and it's two pieces of very rusty metal with some weeds on this. This one has a drawn maple leaf. He went through this phase where he's just started drawing tiny, tiny ink spots on dried leaves. That was an obsession for a while. And some installations. Every once in a while, he would just start thinking big, big, big. This, I think, was over at Albany Public Library. It's called the Mercy Seat, and all of those are tiny, tiny chairs. And this one is masks. He started doing collages with this one, and collages of faces on sticks. So this is headline haiku. The rules was the clippings all had to come from the same publication. This was Computer World 1990. I'm not sure where this one was from. The Spirit of Art, Fort Worth Weekly, April 10 through 16, 2003. And later in life, in the past few years, he became obsessed with collages. He would fill notebook after notebook after notebook with these, with cutout shapes from magazines. He just really became obsessed with it. And there were, different he'd do it in different formats and stuff. And then finally, in the last few weeks of his life, when he was really sick, he started doing these coffee paintings. And if they're coffee, bourbon, wine, whatever was left over in a glass, he would take a paintbrush, and every time he walked by the dining room table, he put another layer on it. And that was the end. I've only shown you a few of his projects because otherwise we'd be here all day. I think he had not a singular vision, but a definite sensibility and style. And he found art everywhere, every day. I hope you carry his inspiration in your heart. I'd like to introduce Paul Jossman.
Thank you very much. I'd like to first thank everybody for coming here. It's really great to see everybody, faces I haven't seen in a while. Tried to say hi to everybody, but probably didn't get around to everybody, but maybe afterwards. What I'm going to do, my part of the program here, is to sort of go back to the beginning, like Greg's origins, and see how this remarkable person, came to be. So let's go back, way back to Greg's days in high school. And if you've seen the show, you remember that Greg remembered high school as the best 7 years of his life. Now, Greg at that time, he was very proud of his first job, okay, which was, this was in the late 60s. He got a job as the sheriff's deputy at the Wild West show at Fantasy Island Amusement Park outside of Buffalo, right? That was his job, his first job. And it involved swaggering around in a cowboy outfit charming the kids and grandmothers, and helping the sheriff round up the bad guys. Now, when he was unlucky enough to be shot by Black Bart, he would drop with comically exaggerated histrionics onto his knees and then fall face down onto the street, with great histrionics. But on a really good day, he got to be shot off of a rooftop and fall down onto a mattress, again with the same histrionics as you can imagine. He was quite good at it, and he found himself at the tender age of 16. He was already at that time greeting fans and signing autographs. Okay, you get it? Okay? So, now, looking back on this, with just a little bit of retrospection, this reveals that this job of falling off roofs is really sort of a metaphor for his style throughout the rest of his life. Really, number one, he always made it look easy. Two, he did things in his own unique way. And three, he earned and enjoyed the attention and the adulation of his fans and followers. So, at that time, inspired by the Jim Kweskin Jug Band, who we saw at the Mariposa Folk Festival, Craig played in a band called the Zing Kings Jug Band in high school. Okay, there you go. See, he's even from back then. He was killing it. Now, it was in this band that he developed his completely unique two-spoon style of playing the washboard, which nobody else does. And it was he would play like this, and sort of do this, right? And then he'd kick his leg up and he'd do this thing like this, right? And I mean, it was really a wonder to watch. And try as I might, I saw him do it. I thought, well, I can do that. And I get the thing, and I was falling over, couldn't do it. Impossible to copy. And but I think the point here is that even in high school, with something like that, he was learning in different ways to fashion his stage presence and discovering and developing, his many performing skills. So whenever he, took on something like that, he would find his own unique way to do it and really make it his own. Now, as you know, in show business, there were disappointments as well. Greg got great amusement recalling how in high school he auditioned for West Side Story, and he was given the only non-singing role in the whole cast. All right, moving on. Our paths first crossed at the Inside Out Coffee House in Troy, New York in 1971. His college band was looking for a banjo player, and I was just out of college and looking for some fun music to play, so I joined up. And that summer, we auditioned for a summer-long gig at Gaslight Village Amusement Park in Lake George. You remember that, right? Of course, like many of the venues that we have played, that it's been torn down, and now it's just a field. But I digress. Okay. We auditioned for a summer-long gig there at Gaslight Village, and since the sign said long-haired freaky people need not apply, we put hats over our hair, and we adopted the name Star Spangled Washboard Band. After the stars on Greg's washboard, and we got the gig playing 4 shows a day, 6 days a week, for $100 a man. But Greg, however, he also auditioned for the melodrama, and he got a role in that as well, playing the cantankerous, tippling father of the heroine. So now he was doing an additional 3 shows a day, so he was doing 7 shows a day, 6 days a week, for the same $100. But we were in show business. Yes! Yes, okay. So the Washboard Band, it was an extremely entertaining and fun band, and we found work quickly and developed a good following as an acoustic quartet. But in time, the band electrified and developed a style akin to taking a banjo, a fiddle, and a Firesign Theater album and putting them in a blender at high speed. Now, it was in this setting that Greg developed his first complete stage persona, Wild Bill Hayes. And what he was really doing, this was his inspired evolution of his teenage cowboy who fell off of roofs. But now he was clad in a fringe shirt, black jeans, he had a cowboy hat, cowboy boots, a big belt buckle, he had a holster for his harmonicas. And his really crowning touch here, he had a little black beauty mark that he put on his cheekbone right here that he would cut out of a piece of black bumper sticker material. But people loved it, I'm telling you, they loved it. Really. So every song that he performed in that band, I would say he inhabited it, he perfected it, he owned it with his own unique vocal interpretation. His gestures, his turns, his nods, his facial expressions, his surprising props, his dramatic movements. You know, people couldn't take their eyes off him. Literally, people could not take their eyes off him. It was just amazing. And I recently watched some old videos of him back in those days, and I'm still, you know, as many times as I've seen the show, I was still like blown away by his, his complete investment in his character as Wild Bill Hayes. Greg, or rather Wild Bill Hayes, he was in character from the minute he walked on the stage until the minute he walked off. He had command of thousands of details in every single thing that he did on stage. If he was taking a drink of water, if he was wiping his face with a towel, if he was moving his cymbal stand, if he was even looking at another member of the band, he was in character and it was compelling to watch. It was really amazing. Always fresh and durable, his performance fit the myriad venues that we played throughout the 70s. Some of these venues included like the Bitter End in New York, the Philadelphia Folk Festival, a couple of months at Disney World, the Mike Douglas Show, Maury Povich Show, the 1976 People's Bicentennial in Washington, D.C., and countless bluegrass festivals, colleges, showcase clubs, and state fairs. Finally, leaving a trail of debris in its wake, the Washboard Band dissolved in 1978, and after some decompression and a little woodshedding, we reemerged as the skinny tie, new wave, witty pop band Blotto. Thank you. Most of you are probably more familiar with Greg's second great stage persona, Sarge Blotto. And here, Greg, built on what he had before, but he created a new punky but friendly look. It was simplified, more compact, more muscular, tighter pants, spiky hair, leather wristband, kind of a rock edge, a little more sexy than cute. And again, building on everything that he had, he again, every action on stage, everything he did was the embodiment of Sarge Blotto. And at that time, he wasn't limited to live performing and recordings. The new music video medium was really perfect for Greg, who thrilled countless fans with his timeless performances in the videos for Lifeguard and Metalhead, which were in heavy rotation on MTV. And his iconic smoking headphones clip, right from Metalhead, that was used in a long-running promo that MTV used. Now, slight aside for a moment, something important. Of course, you know, we all enjoy attention and adulation. You know, who wouldn't? Greg liked the attention that he got very much. In fact, he liked it a lot. In fact, he liked it a whole lot. So we had a little joke amongst us in the Blotto band that went something like this. Bowtie thinks everyone's looking at Broadway. Broadway thinks everyone's looking at Bowtie. Sarge knows everyone's looking at him. Okay. So, all good things must come to an end. Blotto stopped playing regularly in the mid-'80s, and Greg moved into his next career, which was, you know, writing about music. Now, you know, other people will elaborate on this more, but I just want to say a few things that I think he seamlessly carried his style that I described before, you know, over to this new job. You know, first, you know, he did endless research and preparation, and he made his job look easy. Second, he had his own unique style and voice, and you always knew it was his writing. And third, he developed a new base of readers and fans and enjoyed the pleasure that they took in his writing. Greg was my friend, bandmate, and brother since 1971. We toured for over 11 years, and since one band touring year is like a dog year. Really. So the time adds up, really. And then we had another 12 years playing in a much more relaxed fashion in the Ram and Jug Stoppers. You know, the pain of his loss. Thank you. The pain of his loss, it's with me every day, but my life was so much better for knowing him. You know, I accept that hurt as the price, you know, of his friendship, and I'm happy to pay it. Greg left the building before us, so we'll check out of the dressing room, gather up whatever he left behind, load up the gear, and catch up with him back at the hotel. Thank you.